Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of my Fave builds. Going up to Season 5, I'm going to be going over a lot of my builds, so that, that way, if you guys want to try them out for Season 5, you guys can. This one in particular is one that I'm particularly proud of. It's called the Double Sting Barbarian. It might not seem like anything super special, but when they changed Sword Mastery to finally include Daggers for the first time in a very long time, it basically kind of sparked an idea in me, and I was like, hey, what could we do with daggers on a barbarian? Could we make a dagger barbarian? And I came up with Double Sting. So this is the Double Sting Barbarian, and the Double Sting Barbarian really centers around the daggers themselves. And what daggers did I choose? Well, I chose the Ethereal Zodded Flesh Ripper Fanged Knives. These are absolutely excellent knives that have just about everything in the world you could ever want on them. I mean, they've got negative 50% targets defense, which means that you don't really need that much attack rating to hit pretty much anything, because most targets will have negative 50% targets defense. Negative 50% targets defense also works on bosses, by the way, at a half rate, so it still is a negative 25% targets defense to bosses, which is still pretty excellent. We also have the 25% crushing blow on both of them, of course, because they're identical. We have 33% deadly strike. We have 50% chance of open wounds, prevent monster heal even, and also slows target by 20%, which makes these absolutely excellent because they have literally everything that you could ever want in terms of a melee character. And with little additional equipment, you can see that I am at 75% crushing blow, 60% chance of open wounds. I have prevent monster heal, I have slows target, I have frickin' 63% deadly strike, so I'm getting double damage on just about everything. And for the most part, I just don't really need a whole lot of additional crushing blow, open wounds, anything like that on any of my other equipment. I also don't need a whole lot of attack rating on my equipment either, thanks to the negative 50% targets defense, because, well, basically, when you're running negative 50% targets defense daggers, it goes pretty quick. For the other equipment, I was basically using Laying of Hands. I do have a decent Ravenfrost. I got the Life Leech Ring with a little bit of Strength and Dex, nothing special there. String of Ears, and then Fortitude, which is for the enhanced damage, of course, because I am mainly a physical damage attacker. I'm using G-Face with a 15% IAS jewel in it that has 12% damage taken goes to mana. Very nice jewels. If you ever find a 15% IAS jewel with 12% taking damage goes to mana, that is an excellent jewel for melee classes like this. I'm using Amaras with a 26 all res. I got Gore Riders on, which could be replaced with, if you really wanted to up your crushing blow even higher than 75%, because you have open wounds on both the daggers, you don't necessarily need the open wounds on the Gore Riders, although you will miss out on a little bit of that deadly strike. But you can always put High Lords here instead, and run Goblin Toes, and then up your deadly strike and your crushing blow even further. So what would be 10% more crushing blow? So you'd be sitting at 85% CB, and then we'd lose 15% deadly strike here, but you would gain, what is that? A pretty decent amount of, another like 15, 16% on the amulet. So your deadly strike would actually go up a little bit too, to like 70 some odd percent. So it honestly, you probably could do that. It would make you a little bit slower, obviously, because you'd lose the increased run walk speed. But the thing about this is it's so very freeing because you just have very easy options for other equipment. You can choose damage over attack rating. You can choose damage over crushing blow. You can choose damage over open wounds. You can choose damage over prevent monster heal, etc., etc., etc. So everything just kind of works out to your advantage in that way. Charm-wise, I am using a physical sunder because I do like to be able to break the physical resistances, and mainly a whole bunch of plus max damage, ARs. AR is definitely useful, and then I have a combat skillers, which really doesn't matter. Resistances, more AR, more max damage. It's really a physical damage build, so a lot of physical damage charms. And then, of course, I actually have a 2025 Annihilus here and a +3 2010 Barb Torch. Overall, though, pretty easy to get equipment, to be perfectly honest. Ethereal Flesh Ripper Fang Knives are actually not that difficult to come by. I was actually surprised at how easy it was to come by one. Now, getting one with a high ED, That's a little bit more difficult. Getting a high ED Flesh Ripper Fang Knife was more difficult. But finding ethereal ones to throw a Zod Rune in wasn't actually that difficult. And the Zod Rune themselves actually are not that expensive in a ladder cycle. So you can usually get these pretty quickly. And the really cool thing about this build is that you don't necessarily need the ethereal versions. You can get regular Flesh Ripper Fang Knives and throw whatever you want in there for the time being. And then later on, when you do find the ethereal versions, you can upgrade them one at a time, and eventually you end up with both ethereal Flesh Ripper Fang Knives. I also use Reaper's Toll on my mercenary for the Decrepify proc, because I am mostly physical, of course. And then Treachery and just a cheap little Crown of Thieves. I could go with something better like Bulwark these days. All in all, though, this character is actually pretty excellent. Let's take a look at the skills real quick, and I'll show you how I have that set up as well. So first off, combat skills, it is 20 points into Double Swing and 20 points into Bash. Bash is the synergy for Double Swing, and that's basically it. I do have 1 point into Frenzy down here, specifically so that I can use that to gain more attack speed if I want to. But believe it or not, Double Swing actually hits its breakpoint really easy. You don't really need much increased attack speed to hit the breakpoint on Double Swing. You don't even need Frenzy to hit the breakpoint on Double Swing. You can do it with basically no equipment. I'm not entirely sure if that point in Frenzy is even necessary, although it's nice to have the additional run walk speed. Now, I also put 1 point in Whirlwind, and the reason why I put 1 point in Whirlwind is mainly for as a movement ability. I really like to be able to control my position on the battlefield with the Barbarian as much as possible. And basically this is what this allows you to do, because it's attacking and moving at the same time. So when you're double swinging, you don't run to your target, you whirlwind to your target. So you always make sure that whenever you are in any situation where you need to move from one target to another or one place to another in a battlefield, you are always whirlwinding there, not walking there. That way you're dishing out damage as you're moving, and it just works out a hell of a lot better. I also obviously have 1 point leap attack and leap so that I can leap around the battlefield if I need to. And 1 point natural resistance, 1 point iron skin, 1 point increased stamina, 1 point increased speed. And of course the entire point of this was to take advantage of the blade mastery, working with the daggers now, so maxed out blade mastery. Then of course I also have the shouts. Not particularly high level, but I have 5 base points in battle orders, 1 in battle command, and 1 in shout. Enough that I at least have the shout, so I'm not really too worried about it. I did, however, throw 14 points into Find Potion, so that I would get the synergy for Find Item, as well as the synergy for Grimward, and I'm also utilizing Grimward to my advantage as well. Let me give you a taste of how this character plays. As you can see, very, very powerful as far as damage is concerned. I can pretty much just roll through most monsters with relative ease. It's not really a big deal. The damage output that this guy does is kind of insane. But also, not only that, the fact that he has open wounds on basically everything, prevent monster heal on everything. When you touch a monster, the monster doesn't regenerate. They will not regenerate, and this is actually very effective in hell difficulty, because if you're aware, hell difficulty is entirely like regeneration. All the monsters regenerate. Well, you don't have to worry about that as a double sting barbarian, because you have open wounds and prevent monster heal, both in massive quantities, which means that you are literally just going to roll over most monsters with relative ease. Take this little pack of monsters right here. Usually what I do is I just whirlwind down the crap, and then I find the elite in the pack, and I just double swing the elite. Double sting is definitely, I'd call it double sting. Double swing is definitely better in terms of damage output than whirlwind, obviously. But the thing is that whirlwind is much better for moving from target to target. So when you're in big giant packs, there's no reason to use a double swing. Like for instance, when there's a whole bunch of maggots in your way, and you're just trying to get through the maggots, it works out really, really well. Another thing that we got to talk about is weapon range. So whirlwind is something that kind of sucks when you use a long-range weapon, and the reason why it sucks when you use a long-range weapon is because it spreads the damage out a lot. And when I say spreads the damage out, I mean in a bad way. Like imagine you have 10 attacks, like when you do a whirlwind. So if I just like click here, let's say that's 10 attacks, right? if there's 10 monsters and I hit each one time, that's terrible. I'm probably not going to kill them all. I'm probably not going to kill any of them, right? But if you have 10 attacks like this, and it's more focused in a smaller area, which the Flesh Ripper Fang Knives are actually a base range weapon with no adder, which means they're the shortest range weapons in the game, equivalent to basically punching. And you can basically focus your damage with this Whirlwind about as well as anything, better than anything. Even Grief is a range 1+1, which is 2. So it's more range than these, which means that if I want to kill a specific monster in a specific area with these, all I gotta do is just make sure that I'm whirlwinding around them in the circle. I saved the double swing, honestly, for the monsters that actually need the double swing, and that's kind of the cool thing. Another thing about double swing that you may not know is that double swing doesn't require any mana. So, for instance, if I whirlwind myself to exhaustion, like for instance, if I just keep whirlwinding and eventually I just use up all my mana, let's just go ahead and do this and just burn all my mana. Double swing, when it gets to a certain point, has no mana cost. It's actually after, I can't remember the exact level, I think it's like level 12 or whatever. But as you can see here, I don't care that I'm out of mana. I can just immediately walk back into the battle and I can start attacking again. This makes for an interesting cycle in the way that this particular character works, is that if I want to use Whirlwind, and maybe I'm more happy to use Whirlwind than I am double swing, that's fine, and I can use Whirlwind until I run out. And then once I run out of mana, I can immediately switch to double swing and build my mana back up with relative speed. Since the physical damage on it is extremely high, you only need a very minimal amount of mana leech, especially considering that double swing doesn't actually cost mana. If you look at it, there is no mana cost on the ability. So it doesn't actually cost any mana, which means that you can literally build your mana back up with it surprisingly easy. This also means that if you don't go with Whirlwind, you don't even have to worry about mana leech. You don't even need mana leech on any of your equipment. I actually don't have mana leech on anything, but I did go with the damage taken goes to mana jewel on my helmet, because I felt like damage taken goes to mana was a little bit of a just a better option for me, because that way when I'm in there in the thick of it and I am attacking, you know, and I'm doing my best to dish out as much damage as I can, I'm not worried so much about having to regenerate mana. I can just let them wail on me a little bit and get my mana back that way. 12% damage taken goes to mana is actually more than enough usually to maintain most stuff. And the odd potion here or there certainly comes in handy if I want to spam Whirlwind. But if you want to add in a little bit of mana leech, get a dual leech mana ring here, that's definitely not a bad option. And it would allow you to more aptly keep your mana up. I just didn't really find it to be all that necessary. Honestly, for the most part, I just ignore the fact that I'm out of mana most of the times. Whenever I'm whirlwinding, I use mana, but when I'm not whirlwinding, I don't really care. As you can tell, I do have find item. I've got my shouts. I didn't even use those, by the way, which obviously would have made things a little bit better. I also have my Grim Totem, which I could utilize to get extra damage. I don't even need that right now. Maybe if I was running Player's 8 or something like that, I could use the Grim Totem to get extra, you know, damage and kill speed. But in P1, this guy just rolls through everything like it's made out of paper, as you can clearly see. I love the whirlwinding to the target. That's the most fun thing. And of course I got myself killed because I was amp damaged and fanaticized. Oh man. That's what I get for showing off. That's what I get for showing off. Let's do the leap of shame, shall we? It's the leap of shame. I'll beat you up. Don't think I won't beat you up, sir.
Impossible. Impossible. Impossible.
Oh. Punks. Had to amp damage me at the same time while I was rushing the group. That's what I get for showing off. That's what I get.
I can't carry anymore.
Of course, it wouldn't be the first time that Lord Decease has punked somebody, would it? Let's go kill Diablo real quick so I can show you how quickly he takes down a boss. A boss. A boss. Let's see here. I'm going to see if I can pinpoint Infector from the group. So, in general, when it comes to this character, I mean, what do you have? You have pretty decent AoE capability with the ability to do Whirlwind. You don't really have to worry about mana since you can use Double Swing to kill most things with relative ease. Massive amounts of Crushing Blow, massive amounts of Open Wounds. You also have just massive amounts of off-weapon ED. One thing you may have to worry about in the future is, like I said, a little bit of mana leech if you want to throw that in there. This character never even really made it to completely optimal gear. Obviously, he could have had a better ring here. I could have had a slightly better string of ears, which was 15%, damage reduced instead with an 8% life leech. I could have probably done better with a High Lords here. I think a High Lords probably would have been a better choice than the Maras. G-Face, in retrospect, might not have been the best choice either. There could be some other choices that I could go with here. It really depends on what I'm looking for and how much Crushing Blow I want. I also feel like maybe Goblin Toes might have been a better choice here as well, depending on how you wanted to run the Crushing Blow. Like, if you just want to have as much Crushing Blow as possible, the Goblin Toes are probably a better choice. On top of this, when it comes to charms, I definitely could have had a little bit more attack rating, obviously. I was completely missing a whole nother skiller right here, which normally what I would do is just take my town portal and put it in there, put my torch over there. So I could have had another skiller right here. Definitely some more AR charms would have been nice. Definitely some more max damage charms. So max damage AR charms would be a big thing here. I definitely wouldn't have gone with combat skills, but I think I just threw that in there because I just had an extra spot. So that's another wasted slot right there. Things like this, like the 7 max damage, 56 AR, those are your best bet. Like things that are going to have a large amount of max damage, large amount of AR on them. Those are going to be your best bet in general. And then going from there, once you get your AR worked out in your charms, and once you get your charms here fixed properly, it actually works out pretty nicely. You don't even really have to run the Bone Break once you have the Decrepify on the Mercenary, but since you are purely physical damage, it is kind of nice to have the Bone Break on hand to further break the physical immunes. It's also important to note that Crushing Blow doesn't work if the monster's immune to physical. So if you have this, you can still apply Crushing Blow to immune to physical monster, even if they're immune to physical, right? So it just leverages that Crushing Blow that you already have, which is certainly nice. All in all, this character was a very fun creation of mine, and it definitely used some interesting items that I had a lot of fun with, which is the Flesh Ripper Fang Knives. And in general, I just really liked the character. It plays very fun. There's something just magical about these stupid Fang Knives, these Flesh Ripper Fang Knives, that make them just insanely good in terms of damage output. And also, the negative target's defense means they hit way more often than they should. The 25% Crushing Blow, the Deadly Strike, the Open Wounds, the Prevent Monster Heal, even the slowest target, all of it adds up to a very fun dagger, and dual wielding them, having one in each hand, is kind of crazy. I also had a little bit of fun with Ghost Flame on this build, because I had a Ghost Flame before I had 2 Ethereal Flesh Rippers. and that turned out a little bit interesting. It does have ITD on it, as well as a massive amount of mana steal and magic damage. So if you utilize that in like one of your offhands, it's actually not terrible. I also ended up with 3 ethereal flesh ripper fang knives. As you can see here, I have a 249%, a 283%, and a 281%. So I ended up not using the third one. I also had 2 plain ones as well, a 218 and a 253, which I used until I was able to get the ethereal versions. And even with the regular versions, if I pull the regular versions in here real quick, yes, I lose a lot of damage, but I'm still capable of pretty much killing most stuff. Like, let me go murder Shank real quick with the regular flesh rippers, just for good old times. Oh, he's got holy frosts. As you can see here, even with the regular flesh rippers, still pretty darn good. You're still not going to have too much of an issue with most stuff. And on top of that, you can socket the flesh rippers. While you will lose damage, one thing you do gain is the ability to socket the flesh rippers with something other than a Zodra. So if you want to flesh, socket them with shale runes to make them faster so you can hit your breakpoint easier, or whatever it is that you might want to do, the ethereal flesh rippers are definitely better in terms of physical damage, but having 2 regular flesh rippers, even not even really all that great flesh rippers, still gets you pretty significantly fast kill speed. And like I said, you can socket them and you could throw something in them like, I don't know. I mean, just off the top of my head, if you threw in Ohm runes, you would get some extra physical damage that way. Shale runes would give you extra speed, of course. You could also go with I don't know, something that would give you more crushing blow. For instance, if you wanted to just really stack on the crushing blow, you could put in friggin' CB jewels, which is what, burr runes? I can't even remember how much burr runes give right off the top of my head. I don't usually use burr runes for that, but burr runes are 20% crushing blow, so that would bring you up from 25% to 45% CP, which is kind of insane, right? Runes would give you more open wounds, but you don't really need that. But if you wanted to bring your open wounds up even further, I guess you could just have permanent bleeding effects on there. All in all, though, like, it opens up a lot of doors having the ability to throw something into the socket. It does lower, like I said, your physical damage, but there is the ability to up things like crushing blow and whatnot. And since I'm already, as you can see, even with the daggers, at 75% chance of crushing blow, if you did throw a burr rune in each one, that would be 75, 85, 95. That would be 95% right there. So you would be sitting at 95% crushing blow with 2 flesh rippers, G-Face, and Gore Riders. No additional crushing blow needed. Of course, you could utilize something other than laying of hands, like, for instance, some 20% blood gloves with 10% CB, if you wanted to bump your CB up a little bit that way. But the 350% damage to demons that applies to physical attacks is massive, and it's kind of hard to understate how ridiculous the 350% enhanced damage is to demons. The Fortitude has 300%. A lot of people love Fortitude, right? It has 300%. This is 350. This is 50% more enhanced damage than what this is giving. So it's kind of hard to pass up Laying of Hands as a physical damage character that can actually get use out of it. Laying of Hands doesn't always work on every single character, though, so do keep in mind that it doesn't work, for instance, on Smiters. That's just as an example. It doesn't work on elemental damage. It only works on physical damage. So it's very specific to the specific characters that are utilizing that kind of a build. And with this kind of a build, with a physical damage build like this, that is utilizing tons of crushing blow, tons of open wounds, prevent monster heal, slows target, negative targets defense, and massive physical damage in the terms of the actual weapons themselves, then having that 350% is actually very, 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 very nice. If I would change anything about this build, it would probably be to add a little bit more attack rating, because I always like to make sure that I'm hitting my target every single time. Even with the negative 50% targets defense, you still need a decent amount of attack rating. You just don't need like 20k like most barbarians do. I think that's pretty much it for this boy. Rather embarrassing that I managed to get myself killed, amped and slaughtered by Lord Deceased. But you know what? I'm going to leave it in for humility reasons, because I need a little bit of humility. By the way, if you haven't seen, yesterday I completed my solo self-found P8 run, and in my solo self-found P8 run, Ubers. So I was able to finally complete the Ubers on my solo self-found run, and that was a rough one indeed. But if you didn't catch that one is the, I believe it's episode 5. Let me just double check real quick. Yes, episode 5. So if you didn't catch episode 5, that is when I actually went in and got the Ubers and was able to kill them. So if you want to check that out, I recommend you do, because it was rough, it was tough, and I'm proud of myself. And I won't even ruin the torch for you. You can be excited to see which torch I get. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when I'm just going over one of my favorite builds, the Double Sting Barbarian. And as always, keep watching.